start the stream, bro.
Huh?
We had to start the stream.
Oh, y'all started?
I just
Okay.
I think
it was too
Do we
tough.
have the
Bro. We
pizza
was
tray?
chatting.
I don't know
We
what
don't
happened to
even
that.
have- Just start it though.
I don't know if you have it at. No, I don't think so.
Should I just put aluminum in the oven? Like, just straight up aluminum?
You could do that, yeah.
You could. I would rather, low key, put that on like the bottom shelf and then put the.
Did you look?
Because
With,
the,
in,
the
wait,
foil gonna make the pizza.
in a drawer? Did you look on top? It's not there? Oh.
It's gonna be doughy. You know what I'm saying?
Man, you want to do it? Bro,
No, yeah, I was just telling you to start the oven.
Oh, preheat it?
Yeah, preheat it.
Oh, okay.
I think if you just move the beat up, Charlie, it should be okay. If you move the beat, I feel like if you move the beat,
No, but yeah,
Can I
that's
zoom
the
in?
overlay.
That's the overlay.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
the overlay.
Right.
It's just.
The overlay.
wait, how do I zoom?
Exactly.
This sucks. Oh, there's.
And it lays over. I
Yeah,
want
it
you to
lays
know
over.
that. It has to lay over.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
You just tried to lay without
Right.
the over.
Yes.
You gotta have direction.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? You can't just lay. Where you gonna lay?
Over?
Like over.
It's not like you just lay over. Wait.
Or lay under.
Lay
You can't lay under.
Lay
You can.
in sideways.
Lay side.
Yeah.
Overlay a.
Lay way.
Yeah.
Over to the way lay.
Lays chips.
Ooh, Lay's chips. I don't know what you guys are talking about. I'm just joining. I don't know what you
Honestly,
guys
as soon as I said Lays chips, I think I gave up.
Yeah,
too.
you get. I gave up. I was like, I was
Lay
talking
chips.
about.
Did someone say lay down already? Someone say lay down?
Lay down.
Lay down. No one said lay down yet.
And see, that's what it's all about.
Okay.
That is.
If you were
No one
just to
said
lay, you wouldn't have direction. See, he put the direction in, and he said, "No, I'm gonna get over this."
Lay
You see what I'm
down.
saying?
Yeah.
He couldn't go under it and be defeated. He had to defeat it,
Okay.
hit an attack, and go over it. You know
Defeat.
what I'm saying?
Did.
Okay. Lay
Yeah.
down.
Yeah, like right.
Here, Charlie. Here, switch. Tell me, move the beat. If you move the beat around, tell me if it's like lined up. Maybe.
Okay.
Or maybe you might need to move the vocal itself. But try the beat first.
Okay.
I don't know how you got it.
Yeah.
Did you get it?
You heard it?
Or what?
What do you record?
A little bit. I can hear it, yeah.
It's smooth.
It's pretty smooth.
I can't tell. Is it good?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it sounds pretty good.
Okay. Cool. Alrighty.
And we got it.
So it should be, I say it should be lined up now.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's because the way I have the beat,
Let me say something.
it like starts right away. I wonder if that's a delay.
You got too much time.
So I wonder if I just have to add like a...
We don't got too much time. Let me just
speed run.
speed run.
Yeah, speed run.
She told me she.
The way you put your headphones on costs us 3 seconds of time.
Hey, you just took 35, telling me it was taking 3. Look at it. Look how we lost 38 seconds.
You needed a whole minute staring at me.
Oh my gosh.
3 seconds.
Yeah, I got
Shh. Amazing. There you go. She know what she want from me. She know that she is the one. Let me see. I don't need.
It's going through the mic.
She know that I need you. And I know that I need this the whole time?
Yeah, bro. I was trying to tell you. I was like, it's the mic, not the headphone.
Overlay.
Lay down. Right, lay down. Right.
Right.
Oh, brother, give me.
Are you trying to record?
Huh?
You trying to record?
I was trying to go back.
Oh, click that. Yeah.
I can't see nothing. Okay, no, let me see.
Drag this.
You're right. That's what. Yep.
And then click on this. That has the auto tune. That's the same thing as Charlie. So.
It's the same one.
Yeah. So if when you record it, you have your own.
Okay.
And obviously just click the red.
Who drew this?
And I'll try to scout this.
Yeah.
I ain't draw
That's
that.
Travis
No, I
Scott.
swear to God, I woke up one day and I showed up.
I need you. I don't like how that sounds. I need you. Let me see. I need you. She know that I need you. Oh yeah. Huh. She know that I need. I don't even know what I was saying. I said I need you. You are the best thing that's happened in my life. You know that every single day you are my wife. I think I need for you to just see what I'm trying to be, who I'm trying to be. 'Cause I know that you really love me. Yeah, I know that you. There we go.
Yeah.
Let's see how that sounds.
I think it's still recording.
There we go. All right. We just need to take this right, and then it goes. That was the start where it go to the. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was right here. Yeah, there we go. Just go here, and then I'm just gonna slap, and then I'm just gonna cut. Oh.
What just happened?
Oh.
There you go.
There we go. That's what, yep.
Okay.
There you go. Okay. Woo, buddy.
There you go.
Let's
That was something.
do that again.
Let's not do that
You
at
get
all.
to click. You get to click S next time or control.
Oh, okay. So
Smart,
now it's right. No.
God.
Then-
Lord have mercy. What
Did
we doing? What we trying to do?
No, stop. Just go back to
What the
the.
fuck?
Oh
So
my
that's gonna stay
gosh.
there.
For how long?
Click on down.
Oh.
Just click it. Yeah, there you go. Now it's disabled.
Oh, okay. All right. That's okay.
You trying to?
Okay, right. And
You
then
trying to start it right?
oh wait, I gotta take it out the thing so you can see it.
The speaker on?
What's?
Why? Oh my goodness! Control yourself! Alright, so let's start.
What the fuck?
Why did it get so calm? I don't know.
Calm down, yo.
Alright, let's try.
Okay.
Is this on? Is this stream on?
Yeah, it's on. We got.
Why did
Oh,
you just run in here like that,
What is
bro?
happening?
We got 4 viewers.
I mean,
What are you guys doing?
it complements the chaoticness. It's
Oh,
we
yeah,
got play on speaker.
Oh,
We play on
right,
speaker.
right.
We do it. I don't know how to do this.
Go to the setting.
How you doing?
The frick?
Oh, good, dude. Chilling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hangover's kind of going away, but it's still there.
What?
Your setting.
under.
Not that setting.
No. See, the over it comes back into it.
Oh my
The
God. The hang under. The hang under.
dude,
Not
what
the
are you
hangover.
It's the hang.
What do you mean?
The camera shot. They want to see us.
I'm currently in the hang under stage right now. So I just went over,
Okay, wait.
did the hangover, just went over the hangover, and now I'm going
No.
down.
Give me.
Hang
Right
under.
here,
Right.
output. It's
So
not
I can
on.
get
It's
rest
on.
up,
No,
and
it's
then
on.
tomorrow
It's not
morning, I'll be good.
Go click that. Click the window.
So you
Click the window.
you literally had to go
Go to
over
setting.
to go under.
I had to go over to
Yes,
go under.
alright.
Yes.
Why
So
is
now
this?
I'm under.
Okay.
It's not on, bro.
Right here. Bluetooth other
Just so you
devices.
know.
That's funny because you know. You
Charge.
to
It's
start
read
like
JBL
that
charge
boom.
5.
Start in the womb.
Stop the cap.
You exit.
Mm.
Is it searching?
To exit, you go under. But you was over the womb. I mean, not the womb, but the entrance portal.
Oh.
The portal. You know what I'm saying?
Hold on.
Okay.
The portal, you was over the portal.
Not good one.
You know,
Right.
your mother, she walks. The portal's
Yeah.
here. You were up here.
The portal?
You had to go over. Then you came out.
Under. God. Oh. Ah. Yes.
God bless America.
We did it.
Why is that showing?
Lord have mercy.
Oh man.
Say I'm in the hang
Oh,
under.
it's right here.
Goofball.
Goofball. You're the one who clicked the wrong.
Goofball. All right.
All right,
Here you go.
play it.
Shit. Oh, frick.
What?
I was so
We good, we good?
Holy crap, this sounds horrible.
It's like a Travis Scott.
Hold on. Let me make sure. Okay, that's my. It shouldn't catch her application.
So you just
She told me she ain't really going nowhere, told me stay. Deep like he big up standing, don't need ransom, just a mansion. She flying over Tokyo, she ain't in Jamaica. Keep her in check when we arguing, stop going over again. I need you. I need you. Oh, I gotta sound. I need you, I need you. Let me see. I need you. She know I need you, oh yeah. Huh. She know I don't even know what I was saying. I said I need you, I need you, I need you. You are the best thing that's happened in my life. You know that every single day you're my wife. I think I need for you to just see what I'm trying to be, who I'm trying to be. Cause I know that you really love me. Yeah, I know that you. There we go. We'll see how this goes.
All right. Next up, Chicago.
Chicago.
We on tour already.
Yo,
We booked the dates already. We on tour already.
Come on.
World tour.
It's done?
It's done.
Well,
Post it up.
for the time being.
SoundCloud, Spotify,
World star.
Apple Music.
Sorry, I'm kind of like blocking you in. Oh, are you having a moment, name?
He's ore farming.
Yeah.
Ore farming.
Flip farming.
Ore farming.
Name? Hello?
Bro's just standing there, menacingly.
He's doing something.
Holy
Kinda
ore
waiting.
farm. This is insane. This is insane ore right now.
This is definitely hang under right now.
Down under?
Down under?
Down under.
Dang, I thought that would get him. Shoot.
Down with the downs?
Down with the downs?
Nothing ever happened?
Bro, the aura. Oh my god.
This
The
is
aura.
This is aura.
I can't
Let's
handle
move
this.
for 1 hour. Yo, the oven's done. Go
10
put together.
million aura points. I can't handle
I'm
this.
a big bag, so I'm going for the oven.
Where did he go? The oven done. You gotta go put the pizza in. Go help him put the pizza in. I'll keep the chat entertained. Keep the chat entertained. Hold on. Okay. Oh frick! I'm on the speaker. I don't know how to. Let me read chat. How we doing, guys? Ghetto. Look, I know it's Indiana, but trust we are not ghetto. All right. Okay. Before I blow my eardrums out, I need to change this. I gotta add my part of the song. I don't even know what to add on this. I'm sorry that you can't hear the Make me look short. Sorry that you can't hear the recording process of when we're making the band lab, cause it's gonna f the mic up. The OBS is gonna interfere. So when we record, you're not gonna hear nothing. But when we done, you can hear the result. How do I go back to my How do I go back? Holy freak! Wait, no, we good. Are we good? Oh shit. How do I do this? I don't know how to do this. Yo, who's Chow Dre? Who is Chow Dre? Chow Dre 98. What are you saying sorry for? You don't have to be sorry. There's nothing to be sorry about. Okay. I gotta add my part of the song, but honestly, I don't even know what to add. Actually, there should not be no reason for us not to be able to hear it through the audio capture. But I'm fucking up over here. I don't know how to do this shit. Turn this off. Bluetooth off. Disconnect. Okay, let me see what happens if I put it through the application audio. You guys should be chilling, right? Why do I have so much application audios? What the let me add. Real quick, I got you guys. Real quick. Audio. Bro, how do you use OBS, bro? Try this. Just fucking do the whole PC. What the bro? I disconnected it. Why did it connect back? Alright, you know what? Why did it connect back?
Really going nowhere, told me stay. These men keep Lego stack.
Okay. Actually, hold on. We're gonna connect back and I'm gonna add some auto-tune. We'll see how it sounds.
And don't
I'm gonna add some auto-tune. My bad. Charlie already sounds good without auto-tune, but if we just add some auto-tune, maybe. Let's just see what it sounds like.
She told me she really going nowhere, told me stay. These men keep Lego stacking, don't erase them, just imagine. She flying over Tokyo, she ain't in Jamaica. You better check when we all get, so I don't wanna get. I need. Told me she ain't really going.
Naeem's part is a little questionable. Okay, wait. So that's how it sounded out. Now let me turn it off. Or put on none. Cause that sounded really good.
She told me she ain't really going nowhere, told me stay. These men keep Lego stacking, don't erase them, just imagine. She flying over Tokyo, she ain't in Jamaica. She told me she ain't really going.
Oh, there's a difference, chat. Hold on. Chat, wait, does it sound good with this preset? This preset's from Jan, by the way, from BUSGANG. Shout out Jan. I don't know if he's in the stream. They're in the stream right now, but
She told me she ain't really going nowhere, told me stay.
I think that sounds better. That sounds better. I'm not tripping, right? Okay. Now we know Naeem needs that definitely. Hold on. They're eating the pizza without me, by the way. They're probably eating all the. If I go downstairs, I haven't ate anything today. Okay. Hold on. Let's try this. Oh, hold on.
I need you. Oh, I got a sound. I need you. Let me see. I need you. She don't need you. She don't. I don't even know what I was saying. I said I need you. I need you. You are the best thing that's happened in my life. You know that every single day you're my wife. I think I need
Jan's preset is OP. Jan's preset is overpowered.
for you to just see what I'm trying to be, who I'm trying to be. Cause I know that you really love me. Yeah, I know that you. They're real. Let's see how this sounds.
She told me she ain't really going nowhere, told me stay. These men keep Lego stacking, don't erase them, just imagine. She flying over Tokyo, she ain't in Jamaica.
I got a right to. I don't know what the right to this song. I might just have them have it. Dang, I got thing. I just need to listen to the beat, just the beat, real quick. You know, you gotta brainstorm. These are the brainstorm process. But we need to like, we keep the topic, like we gotta keep it, you know. So Charlie's talking about I need and Naeem's talking about he needs, so like, you gotta stay on track with that. I need you, I need you, I need you. I could probably do something like that. Maybe I could probably do something. Hold on, let me guys. Just a little bit of like background vocals. Thing is, I'm not good with melodies at all. I'm more like I rap more than like doing melodies. So we'll leave Naeem to the melody, but and Charlie's definitely the rapper. Like this dude is y'all should check out Charlie TS on SoundCloud. Like Charlie, oh my god, I would pull him up, man. That shit go.
She told me she ain't really going on. I told myself, keep lit, I'm standing on the ransom, just imagine. She flying over Tokyo, she in Jamaica. You better check when we all get inside.
Okay. Okay.
You better check when we all get inside.
I think I got. Hold on. I got something in my brain cooking. Hold on. Wait. Hold on. Hold on. I know you playing, but I promise I'll be with your time. And then I think, did that sound good or do I sound horrible? Wait, chat. Wait, did that sound good? Hold on. I know you playing, but I promise I'll be with you. Come on. Am I cooking? Hold on. And before they eat, hold on. I gotta. Hold on. I'm not gonna be going for. Y'all saving me a slice, right? They struggling on how to put the pizza in. I mean, they struggling on how to put the pizza in. This whole time I thought the pizza was done. I forgot it was just preheating. I thought it was just preheating. Okay, let me try to get my verse in. So I definitely need my auto tune because I suck without it, right? But how do I turn off my I need to turn off the speaker. Dude, it keeps connecting back. Do you see this? Why does it keep connecting back? Yo, how do I turn off the speak? Oh, I just turned off my Bluetooth. Let me try this. I know you're playing, but I promise I'll be worth your time. Maybe? I know you're playing. Oh, Lord, that's how I sounded like to y'all? Hold up, wait. I did not sound. Play it back.
Just imagine, she flying over Tokyo, she in Jamaica. You better check when we all get inside.
I know you playing, but I promise I'll be with your time. I can't decide if it's I can't decide if it. I can't decide if I don't know what to talk about. Like I ain't never been in love before. I'll be so real. I can't decide if I was. I know you playing, but I promise I'll be with your time. I can't decide if I can't decide if I can take it. It'll be worth it. Bro, why is Charlie so nonchalant, bro? How is he so nonchalant with it? I know you're playing, but I promise I'll be worth your time. I can't decide if I could take it, girl, you're worth a dime. Can we hear what that sounds like? I know you're playing, but I promise I'll be worth your time. I can't decide if I might just be a ghostwriter instead. That shit's horrible. That was horrible. Hold on, wait, that shit was horrible. Wait. Oh, my auto pitch not on, bro. Come on. My auto pitch wasn't on, dude. I know you. I know you're playing, but I. What the fuck just happened? I know. I know you're playing, but I promise I'll be worth your time. I can't decide if I could take it, girl, you're worth a dime. Maybe. I know you're playing, but I promise I'll be worth your time. For a little bit, hold on, wait, can you even hear that on the stream? Hold on, let me see if we can hear it on the stream. Oh, you can. Okay, good. That's good. All right. We get in there. Look. Egypt wasn't built in one day. I don't know where I was going with that. They didn't build Egypt first try? I know you're playing, but I promise I'll be worth your time. I can't decide if I could take it, girl, you're worth a dime. Like, you're worth a 10. Like, she's not worth like a dime. Like, she's not 10 cents. Like, she's a 10 out. Like, come on, like. I know you're playing, but I promise This is my entry. I know you're playing, but I promise I'll be worth your time. I can't decide if I could take it, girl, you're worth a dime. I know you're playing. I'm not a musical artist, guys. I can't even say I do YouTube. I just work at Amazon for real. I can't even say I do YouTube. I procrastinate when I edit. I can't even, man. They still figuring out how to put the pizza in, bro. I'm starving over here. I'm about to die, bro. I'm about to die. I know you're playing, but I promise I'll be worth your time. What if I just did a different approach? How do you nonchalantly do this? Told me she ain't really going nowhere, told me stay. These men keep Lego stacking, don't need ransom, just a mansion. She flying over Tokyo and she ain't in Jamaica. Keep her in check when we arguing, start going on again. I think my lyrics are fine, it's just my delivery's ass. I think my vision is fine, my delivery is just, hold on. I know you're playing, but I promise I'll be worth your time. I can't decide if I could take it, girl, you're worth a dime. Maybe? I know you're playing, but I promise I'll be worth your time. I can't decide if I could take it, girl, you're worth a dime. I'm too chalant for this. I'm way too chalant for this. Way too chalant for this. Way too chalant for this. I know you. What if I go like deep voice? I know you're playing, but I promise I'll be worth your time. I can't decide if I could take it, girl, you're worth a dime. I know you're playing, but I promise I'll be worth your time. I can't decide if I could take it, girl, you're worth. I mean, if I was like, if I looked like I had a deep voice, and I mean that's better than my like, that's better than what I did earlier. Maybe. Go Cardi on it? Probably go Cardi on it. Hold on. Probably go Cardi on this shit.
Yeah, she ain't in Jamaica. Keep on check when we arguing. Stop on vacation.
I know you're playing, but that is not Cardi. Upside down, cross, to my neck, shut them up.
Yeah, she ain't in Jamaica. Keep on check when we arguing. Stop on vacation.
I know you're playing, but I promise I'll be worth your time. I can't decide if I could take it, girl, you're worth a dime. I know you're playing, but I promise I'll be worth your time. I can't decide if I could take it, girl, you're worth a dime. No.
Yeah, she ain't in Jamaica. Keep on check when we arguing. Stop on vacation.
I know you're playing, but I promise I'll be worth your time. I can't decide if I could take it, girl, you're worth a dime. I know you're playing, but I promise I'll be worth your time. I can't decide if I could take it, girl, you're worth a dime. No. Preset. This is my preset. This is like the preset that like I be spitting with. Like I'm a rapper guy. Like I could prove. Like I don't have to prove. I don't want to. Oh, my parents are home. Oh Lord. Oh Lord. They're gonna see a bunch of kids in the kitchen. I would like. Can I switch to like my phone? Go downstairs. Is that possible? It's definitely possible, but like, how do I do that? Like, will the quality be ass? If I know how to do that. Oh, by the way, we got dotted up today. You know, this is just the original Paxson hoodie, but we gotta add an extra touch. I knew something was missing when I bought this hoodie. Like, it is fresh, but like, it wasn't fresh enough. We gotta add the dots. This shit. Got these dots. You know, it's like we got the little split on, bro. This is so hard, bro. These were just the original Empire pants. I'm about to fall off. I'm gonna fall. Wait. It's behind me. Oh, my mom brought me food. Hopefully my mom brought me food. I can't leave you guys here, though. I can't leave you guys here.
Yeah, she ain't in Jamaica. Keep on check when we arguing. Stop on vacation.
I know you're playing, but I promise I'll be worth your time. I can't decide if I could take it, girl, you're worth a dime. I know you're playing, but I promise I'll be worth your time.
Flying over Tokyo, she ain't in Jamaica. Keep on check when we arguing. Stop on vacation.
It takes me this long. It actually does take me this long. When I try to make songs with Jan, my dad's already trying to act like a thug. This fool. And my mom's drunk, so. Hell yeah? What do you mean hell yeah? Hell yeah to what?
Hell yeah.
Oh, thank you for my fandom. We're live. You want to see hot chat? We got 4 viewers.
I like chat. What a flow at? I thought y'all busting some flows or something.
Flows? I mean, we just started. Technically.
They got some fried rice downstairs.
Oh, man, I'm about to eat right now. Tristan, stream yourself throwing rocks at people.
Ain't throwing no rocks up in this motherfucking house.
No, you're not
You
gonna
gotta take your ass
at
outside.
people, like at homeless people.
Homeless people.
That's the new trend. You know that on TikTok?
Homeless people?
Yeah, like kids, they grab rocks and they just go
No,
outside.
you don't just fucking pick
Yeah,
on
I know, right? It's
people for
crazy,
nothing.
right? Like they just keep throwing it on them.
There was one time Daddy was tripping on acid. I thought this homeless dude was the devil and I beat his ass. That was different though.
I did not know you took acid in your life. That's new.
Yeah.
Wait, you trip on acid? You just beat up a random homeless
I
person?
thought he was the devil.
You thought he was the devil?
I swear to God he was. He had horns
Was it?
coming out his head and everything. He was chasing me, but I don't think he was, but I was beating his ass. I had to.
And then like, did you like kick back in mid beating him up, or like right after you're like, oh, I just beat
No, I
up
beat the
him?
shit out of him. He probably went to the hospital.
You didn't find him later and apologize, or?
No.
Oh, how old were you?
15?
15?
16? 15, 16? Yeah, I gave one of my homeboys a tattoo, and he didn't have no money, so he gave me some acid for payment. And I was like, why you give me this shit?
Acid? I don't even know what acid looks like.
You know, it's a lot of different types of acid. It was a gel tab though. What it is it's like a little piece of like Listerine strip. You just put it on your tongue and it melts away.
Like that gum? Like the gum?
Like Listerine, like a Listerine strip. Yeah, it's like that, and you put it on your tongue in it. And like it took forever to like kick in. And I called my dude like tripping, like motherfucker, like I gave you a tattoo, you owe me some money. I said this shit this some bunk ass shit. And then next thing I knew, I was talking to him, my voice started slurring. And I was like, bro, he was like, bro, you tripping right now. I said, what? He said, come to the house. So I walked down the street to the house and it was over after that. I was fucked up.
Yeah. I could tell. Shoot, but if we want to be...
Live chat. Rats go.
That's my dad. Y'all ever see those, you know, like those posts where like, when you hear your backstory about your parents, you realize that they low-key the villains? That dude's a villain. Chat said goodbye. Yeah, that dude's a villain. I slowly realized, I'm like, yeah, my bloodline, they're not good people. They're not good people. I'm a new generation. And my mom's drunk downstairs, you can hear her. She probably don't want to be on camera right now, though. I do want some fried rice. I'm gonna go bring some fried rice real quick. I'll be right back. I'm gonna go, like, grab some fried rice real quick. We got like 5 viewers, Mom.
Oh my god.
Okay, chat. My mom made a discovery.
Hey.
What do you want to say? Ugh.
Look, I'm on camera.
Okay, Mom. What do you want to say?
Okay, so I know what 6'7" means. I've been trying to figure out what 6'7" means because you young folks, back in the day, listen to this. We said 6'9", and now you guys say 6'7". So us not older, but us generation millennials. Is wondering what 6'7"
You are not.
is.
You're a boomer.
No, I'm not. Okay, so 6'7". It means if you look on the periodic table, it actually stands for H-O-E, which means you're hoe, and that's why you go like this, because you're juggling the bars, right? It's not.
Okay, yeah.
That's what I got from the. Hi.
And Alicia told you that?
And Alicia told Mama. Hey, BUSGANG.
They're saying hi. They're saying hi.
Hi. Did they understand, Mama?
Yeah, they said 6'7" exclamation mark.
Okay. But there's nothing like 6'9".
I'm gonna eat this fried rice.
Okay, eat the fried rice.
All right, that was my mom. What a disturbance. Anyways, chat. We got fried rice straight from my cousin's house. I would have gone to your birthday, but I'm sorry. I woke up tired and I got work the next day. I'm sorry. You know. I wonder if he works. Does he work? I don't know how it works. Fucking hair in my mouth. Oh my god, I got hair in my mouth. Yo, for all my Ramadanians, I'm sorry, but I'm eating. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This is good as fuck. I got spit and I can eat. I gotta learn how I could just switch to my phone. Cause there's so much going on downstairs. They can't even cook a pizza, it's sad. It's horrible down there. Alright, let me actually try to get to the rest in. I was fucking around, alright? I'm not messing around no more. I know you're playing, but I promise I'll be worth your time. I can't decide if I could take it, girl, you're worth the dime. I'm trying to hit it from behind when we... Sorry, I know you're playing, but I promise I'll be worth your time. I can't decide if I could take it, girl, you're worth the dime. I'm trying to hit it from behind when... I know you're playing, but I promise I'll be worth your time. Bro, what? What is happening, bro? It's not me. Oh, I didn't change the freaking... Gotta go tune back, bro. Jan probably yelling through the screen right now. Oh my god! The frick? No dark mode on this. Don't show no inappropriate ads, F minor. Maybe it'll work. Maybe it will not, maybe it'll work. I know you're playing, but I promise I'll be worth your time. I can't decide if I could take it, girl, you're worth the dime. I know you're playing, but I promise I'll be worth your time. I can't... Okay, wait. I put in my throat. I know you're playing, but wait, I got food. I promise just put in my throat. I promise I don't suck. This shit gonna take forever. And I got work tomorrow. I know you're playing. I know you're playing. Let me say it with confidence. You gotta say it with confidence. I know you're playing, but yo, why it's on 2 bars? Hold on. I know you're playing, but I promise I'll be worth your time. I can't decide if I could take it, girl, you're worth the dime. I know you're playing, but I promise I'll be worth it. I know you're playing, but I promise. Ransom just a mansion. She flying over Tokyo. Shit his ass. Shit his ass. I know you're playing, but I promise I'll be worth your time. Don't worry, once I find like my approach on my voice is like butter. We in there, we smooth like butter. Alright? What does HY mean? HY means hell yeah. I know I read that like 20 minutes later, but I think it means hell yeah. But you're gonna have to teach me how to simultaneously stream on YouTube as well. I don't know how to do that. There's actually things that Spec knows more than me. I know you're playing, but I promise I'll be worth your time. I can't decide if I could take it, girl, you're worth a dime. Oh, I messed up, but I wanna hear what something. I know you're playing, but I promise I'll be worth your time. Okay, wait. I can't decide if I could take it, girl, you're worth... Hold up. I know you're playing, but I promise I'll be worth your time. I can't decide if I could take it, girl, you're worth a dime. have it again. I know you're playing, but is this a preset? It can't be the preset, right? Look how much presets they got. All these are ad too. I know you're playing, but I know you're playing, but I promise I'll be worth your time. I can't decide if I could take it, girl, you're worth a dime. I know you're playing, but I promise I'll be worth your time. Nah, I'm just not writing the beat. The beat was made by my brother, by the way, so if it sounds good, it's made by my brother. This is not no YouTube beat. For the first time in forever, I'm not using a YouTube beat. I'm gonna play Butt Booty Naked on here. I wonder if I get banned on Twitch or I play Butt Booty Naked. Hold on. Let me change this. Save this real quick. What's it called? I know. I'm gonna call it. I'm just gonna put a random ass name. I'm gonna show y'all like what I do. I'm not gonna play save here. If you know, you know. We got Butt Booty Naked freestyle. Like this is how I approach on things. Like I can't do no melodies, bro. I'm gonna play this while I'm eating my food. Bitch, I'm ballin' like a Butt Booty Naked. My teeth ain't white, bitch. I am a racist. This tall bitch doing that. Wait, can I put that on? When I'm about to finish, I know her face and I bend it right over. I do, baby, making I cook on that. I don't think that. I eat it so good, she swear always heaven. She said to the devil, my soul was taken. Finger on the trigger, it's masturbating. I up the brightness like it's saturated. Bitch, I ain't doing no tax evasion. You just doing procrastination. Murder that pussy is meditated. When shorty on me is fascinated. I don't know why these eyes be hitting like you doing better because I made it. See, like, when you give me a beat like this, I can flow. But when you give me something soft, bitch, I'm ballin' like a Butt Booty Naked. I was talking the fence, now I live in the gated. You is my son like your last name Tatum. I'm fucking little shorty, she said she can't take it. I'm high in the race, you would think that I'm faded. I'm fucking the bank, I don't gotta be famous. I get satisfaction when I'm irritated. You little ass bitches, get the fuck out my pages. But I didn't make the song Respect. Oh no, I rap more on that one. Oh, Valentino is good though. Yo, BandLab, can you lock in? Twin. What you mean? Bro! Oh my god. Teach me how to switch my phone, bro. They came in here jumping around in my room, these grown men, and then they did. Just came jumping around in my room, just did. Actually, I need to figure that out. Wait, is that my cousin? I know you're talking, but I heard my cousin. I gotta say hi. I heard my cousin. My dad is trying to sell my friend a laptop for $500. Let me just tell you right now, my dad's trying to hustle him. He's trying to scam him. Sorry for tuning your ear. All right, lock in. What if I just rap on it? Bitch, I'm bond like I'm bubbling naked. My paper ain't white, bitch. I am a racist. Like, what did I rap on instead? Oh, wait. Wait, maybe if I just write rap on it, cause you know that's like my style. There's nothing wrong with like a melody or rap. Holy shit, my bad. My bad. I know that you faking, I can't decide. Oh, maybe. I know that you playing, I'm with your time. I know that you faking, I can't decide. And then I cannot escape you. You worth a dime. I don't understand what these lyrics mean, bro. I ain't gonna lie. I cannot escape you. I cannot escape you telling me lies. Wait. It sounds better if I put lies with faking, because faking is lying, you know? I know that you playing, I'm worth your time. Wait. I know that you playing, I can't decide. Hold, let's do that. I know that you playing, I can't decide. I know that you faking, I see through your lies. I see through your lies. And then I'm trying to change you. I'm worth your time. Oh, hold on. I'm worth your time. And then I like your face, but I like the behind. Ooh, I like the behind. But then like that's just like, what's the point? Like, you know, like if I'm trying to fight for her, why then I just bring up her booty? Like, come on, that's not good. It's not good. You can't be toxic. You gotta leave toxicity and like. I know that you playing, I can't decide. I know that you faking, I see through your lies. I'm trying to change you. I'm worth your time. Behind, dime, fine. Personality aside, girl, you fine. Actions aside, girl, you fine. Maybe. You never know until you don't try it. Hold on. Let me mumble it first.
Check when we arguing, stop no one gate.
Okay. I think I know how to do this. I know that you playing, I can't decide.
Check when we arguing, stop no one gate.
I know that you playing, I can't decide. I know that you faking, I see through your lies. I'm trying to change it, I'm worth your time. Actions aside, girl, you. Let's see. I know that you playing, I can't decide. I know that you faking, I see through. I forgot to change. Was it E major? What was it on originally? I forgot. Oh shit. Oh fuck. Oh my. Hold on. I forgot to change it. Go back. We're not trying to be on E major right now. Or F minor. What was I on before that? Bro, I forgot. I actually forgot. I know you. I don't even need autotune if I'm like rapping, right?
Check when we arguing, stop no one gate.
I know that you playing, I can't decide. I know that you faking. No, that's not how I want it. Wait, I know. I have a vision. Hold on. I know that you playing, I can't decide. I know that you faking. I see through your lies. I'm trying to change your way for time. Okay. I'm with your time, my son. Personally. I like to do punch-ins. I suck, so I do punch-ins. I know that you playing. Oh, that's all I need. I know that you playing. Okay, wait. That sounds weird. I know that you playing. It's because I didn't say with confidence. I know that you playing. I know that you playing. We're just gonna get the draft for it, and then maybe like later, then I cook up. I know that you playing. I know that you playing. I can't decide. I know that you playing, and I can't decide. Actually, let me just try one take it. Let me just try one take it real quick. Maybe I'll just try one taking it. Hold on. I know that you're playing, I can't decide. I know that you faking, I see through your lies. I'm trying to change you, I'm worth your time. Personality side, girl, you fine. Maybe I'm still trying to stop. I know that you're playing, I can't decide. I know that you faking, I see through your lies. I'm trying to change you, I'm worth your. It got quiet downstairs. I wonder what happened. I don't know what for a pizza be off of. I wasn't supposed to be part of this song, bro. The zombie Fortnite emoji is crazy. Look, I know I'm filming right now. I should probably go finish bubbling naked instead. Cause we're not even my song for real. This is your song. But now, yeah, this is your song. Hold on. I'm about to scream in this song. I don't give a frick. They outside, ain't you hear me scream? Hell yeah, finish Bubble naked? Alright, bet, let's go. Cause I need to get Bubble naked out. And then there's another freestyle. I wanna create like a little mini EP on SoundCloud. I'm gonna call it Freedom. Freedom. Cause like we freestyling, you know, but it's like kinda dumb. Does that sound hard? Or do I sound retarded? Wait. I mean like in GC like a possible situation of me. Frick, how do I cover it? I had to restart my PC. I had to restart my stream real quick. That's what I meant. I did not say. Oh no, the problem's fixed. I don't have to restart. I don't have to be restarted. You know, I don't have to restart it. I'm good. We're good, right? Oh, wait. Kathy, you still on the stream? Hold on. Cause Mega Man. We were working on Mega Man. Well, I was. Specs still didn't send in his part, but I did a little bit of something on Mega Man. Oh, you finally back up. Where everybody go?
Oh, they went away.
Even I am?
Yeah, they went bye-bye.
What about the pizza?
It's all gone.
Y'all ate all the pizza?
Yeah.
Y'all didn't send me a slice of pizza. I thought y'all still putting it in the oven.
So you're telling me?
Y'all didn't come down to call me for pizza. I'm the one that preheated the oven. Y'all didn't give me one slice of pizza.
You took my fried rice.
You said, nah, I got this pizza. It's okay. And I thought you were waiting for it.
No, I wanted the...
Your fried rice. Dad told me it was my fried rice. What are you talking about, your fried rice?
I wanted the fried rice, and then you done BUSGANGed it, and then I had that pizza in my hand. I'm like, well, okay, I'm okay.
That little burnt-ass pizza, I thought that like fell on the floor or something. That thing looked nasty.
It was on the floor.
And you ate it.
5-second rule.
Alright, get out. I'm gonna go finish my other songs rather than their song. I don't know when the next time they come over. Because you all need to finish this song. I'm not even gonna touch that song. I try to do something. I'm not vocally gifted for that. Why is the stream buffering?
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
I think tomorrow I'm gonna go over there. So.
Oh, okay, yeah, you could. I got work, so. Is the stream fine? Or is the stream lagging? Stream lagging, chat? I think we good, right? Try back, man. I don't need this. We don't need that. Damn that, please, bro. Okay, now that all of my IRLs are gone, I could bring in the homies. Hold on. Where's the thing at? Cause I think I just gotta join the Discord real quick. Y'all in that hole, right? I think y'all in that hole. Word. Oh, we lagging. Never mind. Word. Hello. Don't say anything crazy. I'm still streaming. Don't say anything crazy. Don't.
Yes, man.
Ma'am. All right, whatever. That's fine. That's cool.
Gender neutral.
I'm gender neutral.
Yeah.
You know what? For sure. F it. We gender neutral today. Where's my hold on. I gotta find the.
I have my finger on a certain sound that says a certain word that
Don't.
starts.
Please
Oh,
don't.
come on.
Don't. Oh shoot! I think I put double audio on. My bad.
Tristan, do you have like my Discord soundboard muted?
Do I? Let's see. No, you're actually not muted on the soundboard.
Okay.
I got the disconnect buddy ready. Okay, I see Diego's going off, but his soundboard is muted. I don't know if I want to unmute.
Hear it. I don't even hear it myself.
Oh, okay. Finish fried rice.
You still got your your finger on the disconnect.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to accept the challenge? I want you to see if you can disconnect fast enough.
Okay.
All right. You ready?
I'm ready. I know that one. I don't know if that's Hold on, mama. Hey, take Kilo out of here. What the frick? Kilo. I don't know if that's a sound from like TikTok or like one of our friends made it, but I know it. Wait, no, that's Spectrum. Let's just say he said some naughty things. Oh, Kilo boy. Got a Kilo appearance. Wanna get out of here? You dumb dog? You wanna get out? Yeah, I'll get you out. Let's see. I changed my camera on accident. Hold on, I gotta fix this OBS. What did I do? On this one? Yeah, I was on this one, right? We have a Discord thing on here though. It's a little weird. Turn that down. This shit was double recorded. I don't know why. We're back.
Hello, Tristan.
We're back.
But yeah, this game sucks, and these are the most boring characters in the game, and we're gonna get more. Pretty sure they're adding Rian.
Alright, back on Resident Evil 2.
Oh, don't play Resident Evil 2. You should
Yeah.
play like a Dragon Ishin.
It's like Resident Evil 5.
Oh yeah, you're right. We gotta finish that game. It's only 11 hours long, by the way.
It's 10:30.
One sec, I gotta download it.
Kind of want to
It's
edit the Among Us video.
10:25.
Hold on, one second. No, it's 10:30. It's not 10:20. It's 10:30. Let's be real now.
No, it's 10:25.
It's 10. All right, you know what? I want to go finish my editing on my Among Us video because I'm been slacking. And since 7 Live is not in the building right now, that's gonna be it for this stream. Even though it's on the BUSGANG channel, I should have streamed on the 7 Live channel. I have a 7. Hold on, let me bring it up. I literally have the 7 Live Twitch, bro. I don't know what we're doing. Twitch. If you haven't already, go follow. Look at this, bro. Why did I not? I even made an Instagram and YouTube. Oh, and we didn't need to upload. Don't worry, we got a lot of content today. So if you can, go hit us on live. We're gonna be on that. What is going on with the internet, bro? What is going on the internet? Streams from 574. Look at that. That's BUSGANG. Oh wait, we can't see it because big freaking. Look at that. That's BUSGANG right there. You already know. You got Abstract Art Tribe. That's one of the homies. You got DOTDOTDOT. That's y'all saw the homie later. The one that was jumping all over my room. Didn't even. You know, he always comes to make music, and instead of like, I know he did something on the track, but like instead of like finishing it up, he just wants to jump around in my room and breaks. Like, come on, bro. Like, my chair feels a little weird now. So you got the DOTDOTDOTs. We just did this today. There'll be a video about it later. Maybe with little clips of the stream. We got stand up. These were just normal pants, and we got the logo on it today. Oh, frick. Check that out. We're not clothing brands. We're not content creative. We're just a fucking. I don't mean to cuss. We're just we're a message. Actually, I don't even know, bro. I actually don't. I don't even. We're art. All right, check that out, and yeah, check out the Twitch. All right, see ya. I don't know when the next time I'll be live, but it'll probably be a long time. All right.